Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good morning. My name is Silfia Rohmatul Nikmah, NPM Z1K01055. Today I'm gonna tell a story that has been given Ma'am Indah in WhatsApp group. The story is No Witchcraft for Sale by Doris. The Farquhar are a white family living in southern Rhodesia. The Farquhars had been childless for years. Then their child, Teddy, was born. Later, when Teddy had his first haircut, Gideon, the cook, picked up the soft gold tufts from the ground and held them reverently in his hand. That became the native name for the child. Gideon and Teddy were great friends from the first. Gideon had finished his work. He would lift Teddy on his shoulders to the shade of a big tree and play with him there, forming curious little toys from twigs and leaves and grass, or shaping animals from a wetted soil. When Teddy learned to walk, it was often Gideon who crouched before him, clucking encouragement, finally catching him when he fell, tossing him up the air till they both became breathless with laughter. Farquhar was fond of the old cook because of his love for her child. Sometimes a small pickaninny, who had been born the same time as Teddy, could be seen peering from the edge of the bush, staring in the air at the little white boy with his miraculous fair hair and northern blue eyes. The two little children would gaze at each other with a wide, interested gaze, and once Teddy put out his hand curiously to touch the black child's cheeks and hair. Teddy was about 6 years old when he was given a scooter, and discovered the intoxication of speed. All day he would fly around of homestead, in and out of flower beds, scattering quacking chickens and irritated dogs, finishing with a wide dizzying arc into the kitchen door. He was afraid to come near it, but Teddy showed off in front of him, and he raced us in circles around the black child until he was frightened and fled back to the bush. "Why did you frighten him?" asked Gideon, gravely reproachful. "Soon you will be going away to school, little yellow hat," he said wonderingly, "and then you will be grown up." He shook his head gently and said, "And that is how our lives go." He seemed to be putting a distance between himself and Teddy, not because of resentment, but in the way a person accepts something inevitable. Now Gideon would let his flesh touch the flesh of the white child. He was kind, but there was a grave formality in his voice that made Teddy pout and sulk away. Teddy had been on his scooter and had come to a rest with his foot on the side of a big tub of plants. Farquhar came running when she heard the commotion. "He'll go blind!" she sobbed, holding Teddy close against her. Farquhar lifted the child into the house and bathed his eyes with a permanganate. She stood by the window and holding terrified, sobbing little boys in her arms, and peered helplessly into the bush. It was not more than a few minutes before she saw Gideon come bounding back. In his hand he held a plant. "Do not be afraid, missus," said Gideon. "This will be cure little yellow hat's eye." He stripped the leaves from the plant, and leaving a small white fleshy root, Without even washing it, he put the root in his mouth, chewed it vigorously, and then held the spittle there while he took the child forcibly from Mrs. Farquhar. He gripped Teddy down between knees and pressed the balls of his thumbs into the swollen eyes, so that the child screamed, and Mrs. Farquhar, he knelt over the writhing child, pushing back the pupil lids till chinks of eyeball showed, and then he spat hard again and again into first one eye and then the other. Farquhar went to Gideon into the kitchen and thanked him over and over again. They gave Gideon presents for his wife and children, and a big increase in wages. But these things could not pay for Teddy's now completely cured eyes. The bush is full of secrets. The cowie's arm was swollen to the elbow like a great giant tiny black bladder. These things get exaggerated in telling. We are always shaking up on this kind of story, and we draw a blank every time. Anyway, one morning there arrived a strange car at the homestead, and out sped one of the workers from the laboratory in town, with cases full of test tubes and chemicals. Little Teddy was there too, his blue eyes sparkling with healthy to prove the truth of it. Eventually, when the meal was over, the Farquhars called Gideon into their living room and explained to him that this Bash here was a big doctor from the big city, and he had come all that way to see Gideon. Farquhar explained quickly that it was because of the wonderful thing he had done with Teddy's eyes that the big Bash had come. Gideon looked from Mrs. Farquhar to Mr. Farquhar, and then the little boy, who was showing great importance because of the occasion. Gideon listened, his eyes bent on the ground, the skin of his forehead puckering in discomfort. Farquhar had finished. He did not reply. The scientist, who all this time had been leaning back in a big chair, sipping his coffee and smiling with skeptical good humor, chipped in and explained all over again in different words about the making of drugs and the progress of the science. Also, he offered Gideon a present. There was silence after this further explanation, and then Gideon remarked indifferently that he could not remember the route. His face was sullen and hostile, even when he looked at the Farquhars, whom he usually treated like old friends. The magical drug would remain where it was, unknown and useless except for the tiny scattering of Africans who had the knowledge, natives who might be digging a ditch from municipality and a ragged shirt and a pair of patched shorts, but who were still born to healing. Hereditary healers being the nephews or sons of the old witch doctors whose ugly mask and bit of bone and all the uncouth properties of magic were the outward sign of real power and wisdom. The Farquhars might be tread on the plan 50 times a day as they passed from house garden, from cow kraal to mail file, but they would never know it. He said all these things one after another, and seemed not to care they were contradictory. Thank you for hearing me out. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.